Hey everyone, thanks for joining in. Today we have Anuj Rathi as our guest on this podcast. So the goal of this podcast, Anuj, is to help product leaders who are up and coming, founders who are running their own startups, building their own cultures, to create a culture where innovation can really happen, to create a culture where product can really thrive. And when I say product, it's not just product managers. Anyone who's building product can really thrive. I've personally been experiencing those cultures, and I feel deeply privileged to have experience, but I would want to share that knowledge with everyone. And hence, we have you. So just from a target group audience, the target group for this podcast is founders, senior product leaders, middle managers who want to create a culture of great innovation in their teams. Why we have you on here? Because you have led that culture at Swiggy for over 7 years. And Swiggy is in a great place right now as well, thanks to all the efforts that you have done and the team. So this podcast is an initiative to help extract those learnings of what it means to have a great product culture, so that people can do it again and again, to make it a repeatable science.
Awesome. Thank you, Gagan, and lovely to be here.
I'm glad. So before we jump into the details of it, I would love to know, what have you been up to over the last 5 to 6 months?
So the last 5 to 6 months, in fact, like let's wind back the clock 3 years.
Sure.
3 years back was when exactly ChatGPT launched, and like it was a magical moment. Like this is what is possible with technology. I remember speaking with like a bunch of my friends and other product people and technologists and so on. It just doesn't feel that any big technological shift is happening. So it's more around like all the work that we are doing is mostly going to be around, X cross Y of business innovation or some user-led deep insight innovation and so on. But we are not at the tailwind of any technological shift in which more imagination can happen. And as we were like kind of discussing that, ChatGPT happened, and I would say in the last 3 years, like the world looks very differently.
It is
different now. So anyway, now coming to your question, over the last
6 months, yeah.
I've gotten deeper technically, in terms of learning both what's possible creatively as well as technologically, and started working on this very cool startup idea that I'll share sometime soon.
Absolutely. We are looking forward to that. Cool. So getting into the meat of the things, Anuj, the idea is basically, how can someone who's trying to build a culture of their own, team of their own, create an environment in their startup, in their company for real product innovation to happen. With that understanding, I'd want to know from you, what are those, like, if there were like top 3 values and rituals at Swiggy that you would say have really led to the innovation, have really led to the mastery that Swiggy has built, what would be those 3 values and 3 rituals?
I think so. First up, thank you for doing the podcast in the way that you're doing, which is like very focused on culture, rituals, values, and so on, right? So my fundamental belief is like you must have already heard that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
That is true. But even before that, I feel org design beats culture for breakfast. So you start there.
Okay.
And don't start with culture as an outcome of that. Like if you are a leader and if you're in the C-suite, then you have to be very conscious about what is the org design, who are the people in the right places, and how do I think of all these nuts and bolts and the machineries, and these are the big gears, which are your leaders, and then there are smaller gears and so on. Where do I want this machinery to lead me over the next 1 year?
Okay.
So don't do org design for forever. It's always going to be a work in motion.
Okay.
And given that org design, you imagine that what is the stage of the company that we are actually in? What is the stage of the company that we want to reach? Or like whatever period that you can define. Your strategy could be 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and so on. You start there. And then from there, you derive what are the people at what I would say at what places are they in? What is their operating system of working with each other?
Okay. And
then come to the values that will. So values are more permanent, but to kind of like how they will work with each other, and that's how culture is defined.
Awesome.
And so in that context now, and that is true for every company whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
But in that context, the ways or the rituals in Swiggy also kept on evolving depending on where we were in our stages.
Okay.
So, for example, the first stage when I joined in 2016, Swiggy already had found kind of like a hockey stick product market fit. It was already like we were doing 25,000 orders a day. live in 7 cities, just under 2 years old, and as a completely new e-commerce, quick commerce company. There were very few companies who had just like came out of nowhere and did that in a market where like there were say 100 people doing that and 50 venture-backed companies who are doing food delivery and stuff like that. But Swiggy was kind of winning.
Yeah.
But at the same time, its system, it was a three-way marketplace.
Okay.
And a three-way marketplace, like I've done commerce just like you have.
Yeah.
You already understand how two-way marketplaces are different, are very difficult.
Yeah.
It may seem very easy from the outside.
Another tangent comes in.
But here, and I'll explain sometime later, what does a three-way marketplace look like? It's like almost like Amazon multiplied by Uber. So you have to think of it that way.
Okay.
So that means that all of your three sides of consumer, restaurants at that time, and delivery partners, they were kind of strung together with a string of technologies and products that was barely working.
Okay.
And at that time, we would go down a lot at 8 o'clock every night that like, hey, we don't have enough delivery executives available. Search is also not kind of working well. Like there was like a whole bunch of things that just needed fixing. And for example, that year's values and so on, that everything has a burning problem.
Yeah.
And the rituals would be very different. And the rituals would be extremely high on execution, but with excellence.
Okay.
So instead of just putting, and that's the product judgment that a leader has to bring in.
Yeah.
Like, should I put in like even more band-aids? What are the band-aid-able problems that I need to have versus which are the ones that we will take a step back? We will put like 30% of company bandwidth in just solving these two problems. For example, on the delivery executive side of things, their earnings and how they relate to orders, for example, was like a burning problem. You can like have it a simple solve to that, but in different cities and different kind of gig economy workers, like you may actually want to take like a much better stab at even solving the first step of the problem. Like,
but you're also telling me it depends on the stage of the company, the values, rituals, org design.
It absolutely does, and not only stage of the company, it's also what is the competition that you're going after? Because and one of the things that I've seen like many purest product leaders or just worry about the customer, never worry about competition. And I've never like truly understood why not. Like competition is don't obsess about them, but it's essentially if your set of customers are choosing something else over you, that is customer obsession. So you out to look at like what's working elsewhere. So yeah, anyway, coming back to what we were saying. So you need to look at where my company is. What is a competitive landscape? Where is it that with respect to like the leader's vision and how should we be taking it? What is the closest way to close a gap? So, and that's how like the entire thing kind of needs to work.
For example, let's take that example of Swiggy just after post-PMF, the stage that it was. What was the org design like? What was the vision that the org design was catering to? And what system was in place? As you mentioned, what is the operating system working? And how did competition play a role in how the company worked? We are trying to figure out operating system of like how people are interacting with each other, how the product is being built. So what were the core ingredients here at this point?
Ingredients. So and usually that happens in any company.
Absolutely.
So it's not only a Swiggy specific. I might as well talk about ClearTrip or Jupiter, like
absolutely,
anything, right?
Yeah.
So think about it this way. So you found a PMF, like there's some systems that are working. There are things that are going well for you. For example, customer obsession was like the number one thing that Swiggy was going after. So there were some very hard rules that were set. We will not serve the customer if you're going to delay the order by like whatever. If it is 45 minutes or like some X minutes, then we will not serve. We would rather like basically say that we are not available for you. Sorry, come back later. Because it's food, it needs to be served hot or like otherwise your ice cream will melt or your pizza will get soggy and things like that.
Understood.
So a few things that were working from that point of view. There were a few things that were working from the point of view of restaurants. Like we are working with you. We have started to deliver you orders. We have started to get you like some or getting some revenues and commissions and so on. A few things that were working very well. But at the same time, if we take a step back, like there was already like competition that was starting to heat up. There are like our good friends from Gurgaon and like there are like a bunch of other people. Like I think Uber Eats had already started coming in. Amazon had started like showing that we want to do food, and so big global companies who are trying to enter and so on. So that was kind of the competitive landscape. At the same time, we had understood that this has captured the fancy of Indians. Like this is completely new, where a lot of users who are using it, they are getting to frequency of 4 every month and so on. So that was starting to happen. And so there's a beautiful new almost white field landscape of like so many people if we can acquire, how do we even deliver this? So that was kind of like the our point of view or just looking at it that way. However, now our systems were like really not built to support that way. We had a very small engineering team, a very small set of product managers and so on who would only look at like their day-to-days and of course work 12 hours a day to get like those fixes out and so on. So that kind of was working but not working. So there was inherently, and now business teams, supply teams, operations teams, all of them were coming. Like you would have seen that in
Absolutely.
Yeah. Who are just razor sharply focused on their metrics. And that's the right thing to do. And they would go to collaborate with product managers that, okay, let's get this out and so on. So a typical way in which like a company works, but here is the problem, because in a three-way marketplace, the right metric to choose was not always clear.
Okay.
In fact, that was the biggest problem. Okay. For example, a product manager would choose conversion rate as the highest. And if I had to get higher conversion rate, I need to get delivery fee low, and I need to get essentially the user to get a very frictionless experience. Whereas the delivery side product manager would optimize for cost per delivery, and it will optimize for earnings per hour of the delivery executives and so on.
Absolutely.
And these two are kind of opposing metrics. Like so how, or like the company would go bust, like if you would like that, right? So how do you like even say that this is the right framework to think? That's what you will do. That's what you will do, and you three of you will need to come together to solve this problem jointly. Yeah. So that we created a 4W framework. We created a framework of it needs to be so the products that like people will need to come together, and you will not solve problems in isolation. You will solve. It has to be a win for the customer, win for the restaurant owner, win for the delivery executive, and win for Swiggy. Okay. So
4 wins.
So if we are able to get to 4 wins, those are like the best ones. Those are the ones, and again, it should come from all of you working together. Okay. Because once again, in unlike commerce, where I had worked earlier, you can reasonably solve a supply chain problem completely independently of how her search is behaving. You can reasonably solve a search problem completely independently of knowing how supply chain behaves or delivery happens, because these are disconnected systems.
Absolutely.
Search will happen, order will come, and then linearly after 2 days, some shipment will happen, and so on. But in food delivery, that's not the case. Like literally, where my delivery executives are will govern which restaurant should I show on top.
Absolutely.
Because I may want to optimize for, hey, this time delivery stress is increasing, so let's prioritize orders which are where Ds have to travel lower distance, overriding the personalization of the user.
Makes sense.
So for example, if you have had a history of ordering from Punjabi food from Punjabi by nature, now that personalization is one thing, but instead of that, should I be showing you Punjabi tadka? It kind of still solves what we are looking for, but doesn't put like a lot of strain in the system. So we had to invent like a bunch of these things which were not there. Like, let me give an example. One interview question that I used to ask my product managers, even and you could be a front end or a back end or like any kind of product manager. If there are 1,000 customers knocking at the door who are going to make an order, like, and they're open the app in this vicinity, and only 500 delivery executives right now, what do you do? How do you even define the objective function? It may seem like a very simple, what can we do? There are like these 3 or 4 approaches, and I would give them 10 options. So for example, one option is just say, remove 500, say no to 500 customers. That's easy, right? Like you can, but which ones? Or you say that I will serve all the 1,000 customers because that's a value. Everybody gets it slower. That's another option. Or I will serve everyone, but instead of showing 1,000 restaurants, I will show them only 200 because we can deliver only nearby food. Or I will put surge on everyone, so whoever is a richer one can actually order. Or I will actually have delivery executive search, which says, all of you guys will get more money, come and deliver. That's another one. Or we'll create like a disk where you say, if you are here, in the outer disk, we will reduce or remove discounts from all of those restaurants so that we are deprioritizing those ones. Okay. Or we will introduce long distance fee. How do you decide? Which is like a great answer for not only a customer, which is the end customer, but all the 3 parts of the ecosystem. Remember, in this, ads are also being sold, and these are hyperlocal ads. So and the ads, restaurants can also get sold catchment areas, which means you are coming here. Ads means not only impressions from people outside that disk. So you could buy catchment areas also.
Okay.
So it becomes very complex very fast, and it cannot be solved by one product manager on consumer side. That's the right answer for the customer. There will need to be all these PMs that will need to come and
Work
solve
together.
this, brainstorm it, solve it together. Even if you have to invent a completely different product, you have to take all that. So that was the reason why Swiggy had to build this culture of collaboration and joint problem solving. And unless there is joint problem solving and everybody basically said, "Thok baja ke humne dekh liya hai ki this works and I understand the trade-off," and it seems like it's a two-win and kind of neutral two. For example, it's a win for the customer, win for the delivery executive, but maybe not so much of win for Swiggy. But here's what it looks like.
So I'm at least taking that there is this 4-win framework that the team applied, and also a value called joint problem solving or collaboration. How did the entire building cycle ensure that these two are being abided by?
So there were some problems. So of course, we did not go with like every problem didn't need to be like that.
Yeah.
But many problems were like that.
I can imagine.
For example, one of the most required features or most asked features from our users was long distance deliveries. Especially for premium users. I don't care where it's coming from. Maybe it's 15 kilometers away, but I just want it come. I wanted to come to home. And I kid you not, it took us a year to problem solve that. Or not a year, like 7-8 months.
Okay.
And this also after experimentation. We would turn it on and we will also understand that, user can get it. But how do you get a delivery executive to go 15 kilometers in the first place?
Yeah.
So it required like us to basically define, okay, what does your earning power look like? And it's not like Uber. Uber has like basically any driver can go any part of the city.
Okay.
And that's completely fine. But delivery executives are not like that. They have like kind of a radius where they are like more familiar and so on.
Absolutely.
And if you give them too many long distance, so they will just cancel.
Okay.
So and if you give them a nice bump on top of long distance, then they will start gamifying the system also. So it took like a lot of efforts for us to kind of get that part right. Sorry, what was the original question?
The original question was like, how did you ensure that 4W framework and collaboration for problem solving are actually happening on ground and not just a value?
And I'll come to another framework that we had actually applied with respect to operating system of Swiggy and how did it actually work. So what we used to do was create like independent product roadmaps. Like if you are a product manager on your area, of course, there are these 4 teams. One is consumer, one is restaurants, one is delivery executive, and one is RNG, which is like joint
growth kind of.
Revenue and growth kind of a team, which is another team that I continued leading in Swiggy. If you're left to your own accord, what is your product roadmap? Like I'm not telling you anything.
Okay.
So let's build a ground up product roadmap that you would come up with. Most people would come up with some feature enhancements, some bug fixes, some experiments, and so on, and with some bright ideas on innovation and so on and so forth. That is kind of like the base level of what is the innovation.
Each team is doing this.
Each team is doing it. Each product manager has its own kind of understanding of those ones.
Understood.
Now we had to run this process around both top down, where the company wants to go, which will require everybody to come together.
Absolutely.
And those would be termed, and if it is big enough, then we would bring them together and call them big bets. That you will need to spend time together to create a big bets, and these big bets will be run very differently compared to your roadmap items.
Okay.
So those become like a very different, centralized and important, where I need like the brain power and execution power of all of you people to come together and launch and build them.
Got it.
So they were literally the 4BB framework was invented from here. So that's what we used to use at Swiggy.
Okay.
So either there were brilliant basics.
For our consumers, what is this 4BB framework?
We got cheesy and we just call every, different kind of products were bucketed along these 4.
Yes.
The most basic was called brilliant basics.
Yes. Hygiene.
So we hated the term hygiene. That's why we call it brilliant
basics. Okay.
Because we had to brand it internally. Okay. Hygiene or backlog or tech debt and things like that, they earn like a very bad rep, and any business owner would look at tech debt. What is this debt that I have taken that I didn't ever want? So we basically no, these are brilliant basics. We have to work on that. Irrespective of whatever bets you are taking, search and discovery must improve. It's like just a article of faith that we have to work on.
It's a long-term compounding thing.
Yes, and you can't just remove it because some other bet came in. So we have to protect that bandwidth, and we have to protect that product manager's sanity to be able to do a long.
Been there, of course.
You have been a search product manager, right? Like so that's very important. And of course, we will run it like differently, but Brilliant Basics had like a different operating system of working.
Okay.
There, for example, architecture was more important. Long-term bets were, or long-term thinking was more important, and the A/B testing that would be required to actually test that out would be more important, and it would work like a little differently. Like, and this is also around like technology, not only product. So of course, like in any tech company, you have to have that part, right?
So in your four
that
BB
was the
framework,
first-
you have Brilliant Basic as
Brilliant
first. Understood.
The second was what we used to call it bread and butter. That's
Bread and
your
butter,
that's
okay.
your bread and butter, which is like product manager's own backlog.
Okay.
Your team, maybe like a group of 3 product manager on consumer front end or a delivery back end, and like it could be any of those. That's bread and butter. Like what would you do day-to-day job? Like literally, these are the few things that I'm passionate about. And here's like there was a cycle around like how would we prioritize and so on. Both high judgment as well as like what product managers want to. But they will have like these features, they will have experiments, they will have bug fixes and core improvement of every part of the product. So they had like a different prioritization cycle and very fast time to market, and they would run very differently.
Okay.
Then the third one was big bets, which
Okay.
is like
Yes.
the one that I talked about. Like, so we will need to come together, and this is where bottom up and top down meets together.
combines.
We will have like a few inputs with respect to your backlogs that you're running on bread and butter, and you take that also. It may come from some point of view of some strategy. Sure,
Yeah.
top down, bottom up will meet, but largely you're left to your accord and like
execution.
go innovate. And it's more like peers will need to work together to make that happen.
I can imagine.
But in big bets, it's top down, and
Okay.
they will work like very differently. That's where you cannot fail. Like these, like of course, there's bets you have to fail. That means, but we'll take like
Execution
extra
cannot
effort.
fail. Yeah.
No, the thought process cannot fail. The designs will need to be like top notch. The
Okay.
research that we will do will need to be top notch, and all of them will be compressed in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
So people will need to put in like a very different level of intensity if they are working on big bets.
It feels like these are like 0 to 1 startups within Swiggy.
No, that I'm going to come to that also.
Okay.
But these are and the big bets. Anybody can propose a big bet.
Okay.
But we had like a very specific format. Like if you're proposing a big bet, it better need to be so thought through.
Okay.
So we use a PR FAQ method of like actually write on a press release.
Yeah.
And we would invite like okay, and it could be like a VP level person, or it could be a junior person who can collaborate with a VP level person. Like it could be anyone. And essentially like create like a press release FAQ and show us like in your mind how does the world look like if this bet is successful, and what would customers say, and how does the product look like, and so on and so forth. So it would pass through like 2 of these filters. First was like sourcing, and then after that it was like we have basically chosen, but we would not go more than 3 or 4 big bets every quarter.
Every quarter. Okay.
Because otherwise it just overwhelms the system. There's so many good ideas. So that's where like we had to build like this very robust system of okay, we're choosing these 3. Now, if others are not getting put up, you have to hold on till next quarter or build like an even tighter case or so on. So it's just to prevent the sanity, right? So
Understood. That's
a lot of great products came out.
What is that one product from the big bet pool?
Well, there are
Swiggy?
many big bets or many products that are actually a result of a big bet that we have taken in Swiggy. For example, Swiggy Super, like that was
Swiggy
our,
Super,
our,
okay.
our membership program.
Yeah, I
that
remember.
was a result of a big bet,
Okay.
or even like on the delivery executive side. For example, when we were building their earnings per hour engine.
Okay.
So before that, it was very rudimentary. Like that actually became a big bet. It didn't need to be like a customer facing big bet.
It can be.
But it needs to be a large enough
Impact
needle moving, impactful bet for which we need the company to come together. And essentially, if your name is written on a big bet, you better align yourself, attend all the meetings, make sure that you are unblocking everyone. Every day the progress is high, and there is just no chance for slack. Like that was the idea of this one. So it's like aligning all the magnetic needles together, so that and we were very clear that big bets like will overrule other things. So it's like you out to like deliver this. These are the bets that companies going after.
Yeah.
Then the 4th BB for us was, we call it Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. Okay.
This was like a separate set of.
So these are the 0 to 1 initiatives.
These are the ones. Yeah, these are the. So you can call it 0 to 1s, or you can call it like when we understood that there are pieces where a company may need to completely evolve into something else. So Swiggy evolving into quick commerce.
Okay. Instamart.
Yeah, so it was Swiggy stores at that time. Swiggy Daily was a membership or subscription service that was a very different. Or nowadays, like I don't know whether they're not yet following like the same framework, but essentially we essentially had like for X percentage of bandwidth, will completely move out of all of these things to focus on completely 0 to 1 Breaking Bad products.
Wow.
And they will run quite differently from any of those.
And as I understand, these Breaking Bad and Big Bets, I can imagine, would still be there. These Breaking Bad would have come out at a later stage, not just after PMF, right?
They came maybe in 2018 or something. Like when we were. So again, it depends on the company. Like
Stage,
you can imagine. Like in 2016, we were like, okay, we were like a lot of fire and everything is breaking every day.
Basics
and so on.
and bread and butter would
so
be
those
the
those are the ones. Essentially, like look, my job or anybody's job as a senior leader is really, especially if you're in product, is to actually create those scenarios of the future. If we choose this strategy. That's what we are going to get to with these risks and so on. If we choose some other strategy, that's where we ought to reach with these. So for example, any company has like a lot of, if it's like a well-run company, it'll have a lot of ideas on innovation. It'll have a lot of information about what's not working. It will have a lot of information about some cool bets that we can take from some other industry and so on. If, for example, in strategy number 1, that's where I had to work with the leadership team to basically say, if we choose this, that means we are going to work on like this year is going to be a lot about fixing our shit, getting us ready. Like that's the theme of the company.
Oh, wow.
Of course, we will.
When did this get aligned that where you are saying, okay, this year's theme is going to be, how did this get fixated on paper?
Okay, here is all the cache of information that we have.
Okay.
I've gotten, like, we have, like, all PMs have worked, business people, everybody has worked and, like, created, okay, these are the backlog items, what we think should be happening. And I've gotten a lot of ideas from you and I have created my own ideas and so on. If we choose strategy 1, then maybe we'll put like 30% of our bandwidth, mental effort, whatever we call, in building basics and bread and butter. And we're going to put like a whole bunch of energy efforts in, for example, big bets and breaking bets. What does it look like? So let me paint a picture to you.
Okay.
So the picture looks like we would have achieved like a few innovative things in the marketplace, and that is fantastic. But our core products would still be failing because we didn't invest sufficiently enough.
Okay.
And here's how I can make it real, because we would literally write down the name, kyun fail ho raha hoga, and it's a conversation to be had rather than anything else. So my job is to like basically showcase the picture. That's what the world looks like if you choose this.
Understood.
And again, that's not a beautiful picture. But the other one is also not a beautiful picture.
Just doing brilliant.
It's never one or the other completely.
It has to be a balance.
And that's when like and of course, great leaders, I want both. So then how
there's
do you...
no or, there's always an and.
Always an and, but you still are faced with
how much
with constraints. But there will still always be a flavor. And every company has a flavor, and every stage has a flavor. Some flavors are like operation. Innovation ki zarurat hi nahi hai. Like, for example, there are companies in which like, wow, what innovation. Like if we are just able to execute each part and each part beautifully well, just compounding effect is winning. Like I don't need to be like the freaking like biggest innovator in the world. Some companies are like, all of this is table stakes. I need to change the game. Unless I change the game, I'm not even like a company worth.
We may not survive.
We may not survive. So that is the choice that needs to be made like very frequently almost. There needs to be like, of course, like, hey, we are playing in a category where what will win. Like, for example, if you are in food delivery, there will be some innovation, but a lot will go on execution. That I'm sure in commerce also that will happen.
Absolutely, I think goes without saying.
So there will be like, so you need to be very sure on how you're running the company and make sure that everybody understands why we are running the company that way.
So maybe just quickly summarizing what we have at least learned. At Swiggy, post-PMF, we had collaboration / joint problem solving as one of the core value. And that enabled a lot of big bets that we wanted to take. There's this 4-win framework, which ensured that customer, the restaurants, the delivery people, as well as Swiggy, all 4 are winning. We also talked about the 4BB framework, which ensure that brilliant basic, bread and butter, and big bet to the core business are all thriving. And then there is a separate breaking bad.
Not everybody needs it, but at least those 3, so I highly recommend.
Yeah, so those are the things that we have talked about. Now, I want to know about your personal experience, by the way, and could be before Swiggy, could be when you joined Swiggy. When was the first time you experienced a great product culture that you would say, oh, this is a culture that is really great in terms of building product?
I thought very early in my career with Flipkart.
At Flipkart. So what were the things that made you feel, oh, this is a great product culture?
first up, there was no concept of product management in the first.
Okay.
Like, I was the first product manager there, and I also was an accidental product manager. So nobody knew what to expect with product managers. And so I think one of the things in early Flipkart days, it was while we were building, like Flipkart was this orange looking book selling website which barely worked with respect to like how it looked, but worked very well when it came to actual search discovery, like and delivery and so on. And a few things like, and I was one product manager for like 45 engineers.
Oh, wow.
So that was also quite crazy. And there were like some 4 or 5 category heads, like mobile heads just started in books and
Would be on your head to improve the
so
discovery.
it was like this, you are at the fulcrum of like that hourglass, like
Everything's there.
and to be honest, you don't even know what your job is. What is product management in the first place? Am I supposed to be doing this? Is it too much of coding? Is it too much of business? So you're still calibrating.
Yeah.
But
then you still maintain it's probably a great culture.
Yes.
So what made you feel like that it was a great culture?
I think just customer obsession.
Customer
Crazy
obsession.
customer obsession. That's one.
Can you tell me like example where it made you feel, oh, this company is super obsessed about customers?
I'll give you
Take
a
your
couple
time,
of examples. I think one was just the introduction of cash on delivery. I think one of the things that, for example, technologists and, for example, design people, product managers like me and so on, who are looking at screens all the day and almost imagining on behalf of customers, hey, this should work and we should build our product detail page in this way and so on and so forth. But to be honest, once we started speaking with customers, none of those were like real big problems were like if somebody out to buy a mobile phone on, and this is 2010 now, it's all like very okay. People are like, can I make a payment in the first place? If I buy this Samsung phone, will you send me a Samsung phone? Will that be a two-star Samsung phone? If I buy a white, will you send me black? So all of those things were not like some high-level problems. They were like real problems to solve. And the way Flipkart at that time approached it to build, like they understood one very simple insight about कि India में धंधा becomes, the mental model of people is not like, is actually not even trust and other things. That is like a problem. It's like एक हाथ दे एक हाथ ले. That is the thing that Indians kind of understand.
Okay.
So cash on delivery literally was ki ek haath de, ek haath le. There's no prepaid and all. That amount of trust is not going to come here. And Flipkart really invented it. And Flipkart, for example, second point I'll talk about is they're selling only books at that time. And Sachin was so customer obsessed that he had to create like all these Blue Dart, Aramex and all existed at that time.
Yeah.
But had to build his own third-party logistics company at that time. I'm sure Misho also had to do that, and good companies eventually have to because they've just figured out that this is not working and I need. But that was a time. I remember having this conversation that it's so expensive. After 1 year of operating, I remember there's a book set of some Chacha Chaudhary books.
Okay.
Some 8 books had to ship. Ideally, they should have gone together, and for whatever reason, the 8 books were shipped separately. Some 16 rupees books, each costing like 100 plus rupees to ship.
Wow.
And we were bleeding money, and we're like, we don't even have the technology to combine these and send them together. Like batching is even not there. How are we going to do this? We are going to fix this rather than not do this at all.
Okay.
And Flipkart was able to take those bets for a long period of time. And it was like a very different one where like at least the leadership was like product should, like of course you should be commercially, you should think about that
business
how profits are made and so on. That is important. But side with your customer. Like in fact, and I got scolded, you should be basically fighting these books should be free. No, that is too much. But anyway.
Fight for customers.
There was just like to make a point, not really. But like just how customer obsessed you ought to be. And the other thing which I really feel was just openness. And I think very open, very, let's say everybody was supposed to bring their A game and get the best answers after discussing, debating and so on. Literally they were shaping how would commerce for India kind of shape up like. So brilliant culture from that POV.
All right. So 2 values that you've talked about from a great product. One is customer obsession. The other is openness to anything and everything. How did it reflect in day-to-day decision making that there is customer obsession? I can see COD is a great outcome. How did it reflect that, oh, this company is customer obsessed in an internal setting as well?
I think everything was just starting from there. Like every review, any discussion, any time, the only currency that we would talk with other people was starting with the customer. We're starting with the customer value itself. So, for example, you're talking with the engineer, you're not really talking
a feature,
engineering complexity or features and so on and so forth. You always anchor it in the customer. I'll give you an example, right? Like, so we were we had to basically decide, like, should we were solving for some search algo, prioritization that should happen versus we're thinking about, should we be building autosuggest? We didn't even have that at that time, right? Should we be building autosuggest? And third, should we be thinking about bringing in some sort of Hindi / other languages inside? No, not Varnak. Okay, even if people Hindi. Are typing in Hindi and
English.
And here is what our customers and what the data says. I think Flipkart, third thing was like it's extremely data driven, which of course was reflected in the customer side. For example, we would say, the biggest problem that we are seeing is, or one of the problems that we are seeing is, around 50% queries are just misspelled. So search to se baad aata hai. अभी तो query understanding के पहले, like, you have to even get the user to express their intent properly.
Absolutely.
That is a problem. B is, for example, and that's where you also need to take like a philosophical decision and so on. When somebody is typing, say, Harry Potter, but the first set of books are using Aag Ka Pyala and you're showing something else, because actually that's what sales data says. Those were the ones that were selling.
Yeah.
So how do you prioritize between those things? So both taking like laying out the data and then laying out our strategy around what the world ought to be, and then using all of that to make decisions were all very, very customer obsessed.
What pushed you to say that I have to look for data? This was your first product management stint. Nobody taught you how to do product management. So what were the triggers in the system that pushed you? Iska data bhi dekhna hai, customer se bhi baat karni hai. What were those triggers in the system?
I think data came very naturally to me because I was an engineer before this.
Okay.
So the only way I would interpret the world was data. In fact, the one thing that I started getting a lot better at was customer signals, intuition, observation, rather than whatever they are telling me. Because I came with a strong point of view around creativity, intuition. We ought to build it this way, without truly understanding what are my customers saying. It was literally my head of marketing who took us to the market visit and said, hey, you are thinking about this product should look this way because Alibaba looks this way, Amazon looks this way, and we ought to do better. That's one. But let's just observe. Let's put the
product in the hands of the customer.
And don't even listen. Don't speak.
Just observe. Yeah.
Observe. And that's one value that I, for example, have carried since then. That probably one of the worst things that you can do is speak with the customer and listen and take it at face value. I think
observing.
The best thing that you can do is actually observing them. Ideally in their natural habitat when they're using their product and your competitor's product. Like if you could be a fly on the wall and observe and make those connections yourself. That I think is one quality that I try to imbibe and also try to work with my product managers. Customers have told us so means shit. I have looked at customers and here's what I have observed and gotten from them. While maybe they were speaking in their stream of consciousness is like a much better answer to me than. So here's a level of, for example, insights. Right? The worst one is
what they say
is surveys or groupthink.
Oh.
No, the worst probably is groupthink. Like 12 of them are sitting together and like you're doing
focus group.
Because they, at least I have found
there's always a bias.
Whatever. Yeah. Because one person says something and they're like almost
+1.
Yeah. So the most extroverted answer will become your answer, and that's usually the worst answer.
Okay.
Not the worst answer, but it's not very illuminating.
Sure.
You have to guard against like your own biases. Then there are surveys which will tell you like a lot of things. But again, this is people telling you versus which you still made them think. The slightly better one is AI, because you're interviewing people, because you're still, and again, if you're not asking leading questions and so on, but they're still reflecting back with respect to, so they're still thinking belief. What I want to get down to is behavior.
So you had someone at Flipkart who actually pushed you to say, don't just think in your own bubble. Go talk to customers.
I think we were all customer obsessed. Definitely, we were all like in the service of a customer. Yes, but I think after that, like I started building some core original frameworks, like speaking with some people from the US and so on, I also think customer obsession is like such a bastardized term. I'll tell you, like everybody is a customer obsessed person, right? I think in product management, especially in India, but even elsewhere, like what qualifies as being a customer obsessed person. I'm not a psychopath. Of course, I'm customer obsessed. I have empathy. I can see what you're talking. Like, why else would I be doing it? That's bar enough for you to self-reflect. Of course, I'm customer obsessed.
Okay.
But then go to the L2. Like, I don't, like, for example, when I'm speaking with product managers, I'm saying, literally tell me who are your personas, which are your cohorts. Like, literally write down their entire life story.
Live every day.
Write down their entire life story.
Yeah.
Imagine that as a person, and now tell me what happened in the morning today that led them to even open your app / like do something. What is their relationship with the category? What is their relationship with your, what was the belief about your product and so on? And when they open this, what are they most likely to feel? And as long as what you are saying and the real persona is matching, I can't call you as customer obsessed. And so one is like literally like what are the personas, but B is like, can you actually draw out a full-fledged data-driven this thing, which is like, chalo, let's write that down. Like, how many customers are here? How many customers are here? How many customers are here? That's one.
That makes sense.
And then write down two things for me. Write down the ACB and write down the DCB. Like, if you build a product, so write down the accepted customer belief.
Okay.
And you write down the desired customer belief.
Okay.
And I will agree that you're customer obsessed. If you say that this is the entire framework of all the customers that are using us, or most important customers. If I build this belief is going to move from here to there.
Oh, wow.
Or this behavior is going to shift from here to there.
Can you give me an example, like what would be an accepted customer belief versus, and what would be desired, and how do they marry each other?
Let's take an example of Swiggy One.
Okay.
Right? That's Swiggy One is like one of the, I would say one of the best run programs, but at the same time, like when we were inventing what should go there and so on, we created like a massive X cross Y array of AOV cross frequency in different cities. And of course, like put in like different customer buckets there and so on. There was like a filter with respect to like what are the kind of people that we want already, like upwardly mobile, this, that, etc. Like there's some people which were not RTG.
Makes sense.
And this came out to be like really large, obviously.
The customer base.
The segments themselves. Because there's so many different ways to segmentation, right? Like, but once we did that, we actually did an ACB and DCB. For example, somebody who's in the frequency bucket of say 4 to 6 and an AOV bucket of 250 to 280, or like say 405 to or something. Do we understand customers in that bucket? Because this is a simple way to do that. Ideally, we start with customer and say where those are set, but irrespective, we had to do that. Let's speak with them, or let's try to understand what does their belief look like. And my product managers literally had to first write their own, how much they understand people in this bucket. So write down their ACB. And ACB is not about like general dunya mein kya chal raha hai. It was written in a specific way. A, what is their relationship with the category? With the category. Food delivery ke baare mein kya sochte hain? What is their belief about the category? Within their category, what do they believe about Swiggy? What do they believe about Zomato?
Can you give me an example, like what would a customer believe about food delivery, Swiggy and Zomato look like?
So two things. Like so within that also there were 3 buckets. There was Swiggy only. There was Swiggy plus Zomato, and like Zomato. Both, and then Zomato only. Like our customer base is not like, we were not trying to attract the Zomato only guys, right? So for example, a belief of somebody who is on both. Example, ki, I use Swiggy for breakfast sometimes and Zomato, and I open both the apps and I sometimes open them. So overall category belief, a few times I will use them. They are not like thinking about you all the time. A few times I will open these apps, and for example, somebody who's in the lower this one AOV, like I actually build carts and check what happens, and I believe Swiggy is mostly cheaper. So I believe
Swiggy is cheaper.
But their behavior may say something else. So that's the belief about the category and belief about my company. Then there's belief about the product category that I'm trying to do. What do they believe about membership programs in general? So that's the second level of belief that needs to come in. I believe YouTube Premium to main kabhi nahi kharidungi. I believe I will not do this. I believe the only Spotify I can buy. I believe that Amazon Prime was good because it gave me this. So category belief.
Memberships.
And memberships and so on. So what do they currently believe? And when I'm actually building a membership program, then for each of them, I will need to write a desired customer belief.
Okay.
And basically a point of view from my product manager, how many people in this bucket will move to the DCB?
Okay.
Because not everybody will move. Otherwise, we would have been all gods.
Yeah.
Because that belief was so strong, it's very hard to break.
Right.
So maybe we'll say in these AOV buckets, only 5% people will move. In this bucket, like somebody who is a frequency 12, who already believes that Swiggy is like this, that, and so on. But last time I used Swiggy Super and they disappointed me and it was too expensive and blah, blah, blah. So that's why the program must address this part. And the desired customer belief, oh fuck, I love it. So things like that. And of course, we would write it like in a lot of depth. But beliefs are hard to measure. So then we will write, because initially what we were measuring is AOV and frequency, which is not belief, it's just behavior.
It is just a segment of
Yes.
users.
And then we will say, okay, if this belief changed, the behavior must change.
It should move to some other segment of
Yes. So
AOV
either
and frequency. Yeah.
So how many people from this bucket will move to some other? So we had to do all of this modeling, starting with the customers and what do they
Very
believe?
interesting
What do we want them to believe if we build this product?
And if they actually, it happened, there has to be a shift in their behavior.
Yes. And
Belief
the
to
most
behavior.
successful product managers are able to actually,
Change
that's
the
what customer obsession is, because they understand this entire X cross Y and then say, if we believe this, if we build this, how many of those will move in this different way? That is true customer obsession for me.
Yeah. What I'm also maybe inferring from this is values like customer obsession, values like openness are in some shape or form reflected in outcomes, but the real feeling that this is a great place to be, this great culture where customer obsession, openness is happening is when people collaborate on ground and these values reflect in the inputs.
100%.
Yeah, I think the way you explained this ACB and DCB is like telling me that there is an input to customer obsession as a value. It's very strong.
Has to be. Because like I said, Gagan, it is the most bastardized term. Like literally the bar for calling myself customer obsessed is not a psychopath. Yes. Of course I can empathize. I'm in the product management field.
Absolutely. Cool. So now we'll move to the second section and very interesting session of our Anuj, walk us through a product manager who's actually, let's imagine this situation. I'm a product manager or a senior product manager at Swiggy in 2018 to 2020 era. The company has achieved PMF. I have a metric as a goal, whatever company expects me to do. What are the different steps that I usually follow to build a product? And what are the company values that are checked at each step? And what are the rituals that are ensuring that? So we are trying to decipher the operating system of how product culture, the values, that intangible part gets reflected in day-to-day part of a product building exercise.
I'll tell you about like how I used to run it.
Absolutely.
And I still want to run it.
Yeah.
And kind of map back into the product.
Absolutely.
Person.
Yes.
And there are two ways to do this. Like there are different product cultures which are very ruthless and I want this goal and like go do this. I try to think about this as a short term versus long term together and break it down into three pieces.
Okay.
Inputs, outputs, and outcomes.
Okay.
All right. And I usually try to work with the product manager to basically say, like, here is a competency framework. Like, of course, very simple. We created something, but irrespective, it's a conversation. And say, all right, this is where you are with respect to your customer obsession, product sense, product strategy, communication, like all the core 5 or 6 things that we feel where you are at as a product manager.
Yeah.
Forget about what the work that you do as an individual. Those are your skills as perceived by me. Let's have a conversation.
Okay.
And here are all the ways in which I feel why I think that you are at this level. As an SPM, you should be looking at these things, but I feel on product strategy, you're just a 3 on 5 because you don't have that. And so irrespective, we will come to the same, whatever understanding of where you are. I usually invert the question of goal chodo. I say, what does it look for you to go from SPM to a GPM?
Okay.
All right.
The vision.
So that's kind of one point that we will agree on.
Okay.
Here are the inputs that I want to see in you change.
Okay.
Are you a better professional than I found you? Is the conversation to be had.
Okay.
Now for that, here is a playground. And the playground is outputs. What is the body of work that will actually get you to showcase those skills.
Okay.
It will be all of those things. It will also be execution. It will actually be the ability to get other people together and so on. So both product values as well as company values. The company values will of course add, that's collaboration, that excellence and so on. So both of those things, here's your playground. And here is a reasonable roadmap that we have agreed on that we'll work on. So now let's define what are the big bets that you're working on.
Okay.
In which, for you to move from here to a GPM, what are the things that I expect of you? So let's talk about those. That's outputs.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about outcomes. Which is, ye sab to ho gaya. But if numbers didn't move, then it's just not complete. It's just not complete. It doesn't even matter. The more senior you grow, it may just prove that you just have poor judgment. You're just a great person, and you build shit, but it doesn't translate into anything meaningful.
Got it.
So either I would start, the more senior you are, I will start with, here are the outcomes that I want to drive.
Okay.
And here are things that you will do. And within that, here are the qualities that I want to see. And here's what an exceeded expectations look like. So I will have that conversation with you.
Understood.
Or here's what an OP looks like. Here's what an ME looks like.
OP and ME, sorry?
Outstanding performance.
Outstanding performance.
Exceeding expectations. Here's a meeting expectations look like.
Understood.
And by definition, every 6 months, the bar is going higher.
Understood.
So that, for example, for us was like the framework and the way conversations would happen. We'll not only obsess about outcome. At senior levels, of course, those like we don't have time to like do all of those things. Like it's a lot is about trust and a lot is about like, are we able to build the culture and shit like that? And nobody can like actually fully write that down. So don't spend too much time there. But if you're in the coaching stage, if you're in APM, what does a PM look like? Even from SPM to GPM, it's a good conversation to have. And because, for example, somebody who's working in Swiggy labs, where the idea is take huge bets, like forget about outcomes. Like that will be different for those people. I'm not able to show any outcomes. Or for example, I'm working with a guy who's say looking at ads, and ads business is just starting, and he will create like some outcome of 3 rupees unit economics, which is unheard of in, for example, somebody working on delivery side. That's a 25 paisa. That's 8 people are working on that. It doesn't mean that just because you are working or given that space where like it's very fertile for outcomes, that I just reward you. And then you get to become an AVP faster than like
someone who's working on more complex problems.
More complex, or maybe the outcome is on a longer duration, and the outcomes is not only metricized, but if the systems goes down, then there's a negative outcome. So we have to be very careful about that as leaders.
Got it. How did you? I think outcomes are very easy to measure because there are numbers associated. How did you measure inputs? Since you're having a conversation with an SPM,
there needs to be a strong competency framework.
Okay.
And I really feel, and that will come out of the values of the company, and like really good leaders discussing like what does a great communication for an APM look like, and what does a bare minimum look like. In fact, and we used to raise the bar. Even at an APM level, you must be. We imagine you to be a leader. You should be able to run like freaking like 6 people engineering team at least, or 8 people engineering team yourself, without, for example, any cases coming to like your manager and so on. Are you being perceived as a leader? So there will be soft aspects that we will try to codify it.
So peer feedback would be a great indicator of whether inputs are happening.
Yes.
And your own perception as a manager.
I think that's very important. And again, no company is perfect. So you have to build your own systems, because if you rely too much, everything can be gamed. So peer feedback can be gamed. So is your perception can be gamed, and so on and so forth. But we still try to create some sort of objectivity within that subjectivity.
Understood. So what you're saying is basically to ensure that the values are followed by a person through and through. Competency framework seems like a great tool to drive that.
If you are able to do this well, otherwise don't. Otherwise go.
What are the other ways in which values are being enforced?
No, I think this is obviously like a point that the idea this works is only if you are going to have a conversation with the person every couple of weeks or every month.
Every month.
That where are you right now? Like if you are able to do that, if your company has that kind of a little bit of a peacetime, then you can do that. But if you're in wartime, like I think I think some of those things are just understood, and some people will get thrown under the bus, and that's fine. And you still keep moving on and marching on, and like more people will come and go and so on.
I can imagine.
And there are some times when the company needs to operate that way. It is not, the company is not optimizing for fairness. The company is then optimizing for survival and like
very different.
You know, so either survival or like I just want to win first, and then we'll come to
everything else.
So it really depends on what kind of company and culture that you start with.
Let's take example of Swiggy only. I think you mentioned customer obsession as one strong value, then joint problem solving. What are the other values that Swiggy holds very true that impact its product culture really?
Oh, I think the most important ones has to be excellence and speed.
Excellence and speed.
And I think so bias for action, you can call it that. And strive for excellence is another one, which I feel both of them, and many product people think that they have one versus the other. Like if I'm going to do excellent work, that means I need to speak with more customers. I need to work with the designer to build the perfect design that is like a really wow one and so on. But if I'm going to go towards speed, that means like I have to leave a lot of these things and so on. And I refuse to believe that.
I agree to that.
I think these are two axes. The best product managers are high on both.
Yeah.
If you are taking forever to come up with like something valuable, that is a problem. Or if you are, like shipping something very fast, but
not creating enough value.
Forget value, like the output will show like it is shitty
quality.
So good product managers like have to live in that reality, and I think with AI, that becomes that loop has even
accelerated a lot more.
Yes. One of the values that we used to use at Swiggy also, just to judge on speed versus quality, there's a principle called show don't tell. Like no product manager was
show don't tell. Okay.
And it's great now. It's very possible
with prototypes. Absolutely.
So we never like. I have to see what you are imagining. You need to be a great storyteller. So literally, like to present to me, like you will create this entire wall with not only the customer journey, but how that customer journey is joining into the delivery journey and joining into the UE and joining into so paint the entire picture for me.
Okay.
Because it's never going to be about a straightforward journey. Again, remember, we are not commerce. We are
it has integrated. Absolutely.
So you have to do all of those things to explain like how this makes sense, and using the storytelling, take me through a customer journey and a delivery executive's journey and something else.
So I think these are great values: customer obsession, joint problem solving, excellence, speed, bias for action, and show don't tell.
Show don't tell.
Now let's take again the original example of I'm a PM at Swiggy during that time. Let's take an example. What would be the core metric? I think growth would be one core metric for food delivery.
This is the nuance that I was telling you, that there is no one core metric.
Okay. So as a PM, what am I responsible for at that time? What do you do?
So let's take an example. Of course, we will need to break it down for the product manager.
Yeah.
But it usually cannot be just one goal that you optimize for.
Okay.
That usually works in either linear products. If you're a single player product.
Yeah. But there's a three-way marketplace.
So here you will need
multiple metrics.
So if you give them one North Star, usually you can basically be sure that they're going to fuck it up for like a lot of other people.
I can imagine.
Because if I give like an ads product manager can easily
increase revenue at the cost of conversion.
Yeah, why not? And like easily. There is,
absolutely.
So there always used to be like metric and check metric and like things like
check
that.
Metric.
So which has to be there.
So let's take an example. Maybe I'm working for order growth. Let's assume that. While ensuring that delivery time is not increasing, cost per order is not increasing with some check metrics, right? So what would be my first thing now if I have to figure out what are the opportunities? What are the checkpoints in the Swiggy ecosystem that ensure that I'm discovering the right problems?
Got it. I think, so one of the things that we try to, I would not say ensure, but growth teams had like a simple 4-part rubric that we had to create.
Okay.
Start with an observation.
Okay.
So that's like literally the first thing. What's your observation about the world? And that observation could be data-led, and that observation could be user-led, and the observation could be like something you spotted in the wild. Who cares?
Okay.
Observation. Data is telling me this interesting story. From that observation, what's your insight?
Okay.
Is there an actionable insight in that observation?
Actionable insight.
So let's look at the second part. And what are that insight? Maybe the same data is telling you something, and maybe I'll reject your insight as a fuzzy insight. I don't know. So that's a discussion to be had. But those insights need to be actionably powerful insight. This is not somebody that anybody can come up with from this observation to this insight. Let's start there.
Okay. So this will be a conversation with you to validate whether the insight is actionable or not.
Just think about a 4-step process. Right?
Yeah.
Observation.
Understood.
And I will usually start with, chalo, what are you observing from here?
Absolutely.
Where are the insights? From the insight, actionable insight. What are your hypotheses that you can... I have seen this counterintuitive thing. If I do this, if I do X, Y will happen. And it needs to be written that way.
Okay. Yeah.
It needs to be written that way. That was the insight. From this insight, I can say, okay, if we build this membership program at rupees 99 rupees per month and do this, these set of customers will start doing this. It needs to be, the hypothesis must be written that way.
Understood.
You cannot just say, let's experiment this. No. So, if you're a great product manager on the growth team, then you must be able to articulate your hypothesis in that
Basis
way.
and insight.
The good thing is, and the bad thing is, the same insight, with the same insight, you can write 10, 20 different hypotheses also.
Absolutely.
That's where your creativity and intuition comes in. So, because there's not something that just data will tell you. Data will only give you observation. From insight is yours. And this is creativity.
Okay.
So, insight is connecting the dots. This is creativity, intuition, and like understanding.
Hypothesis formation. Yeah.
And from the hypothesis, then the 4th step is experiment.
Okay.
A same hypothesis can be experimented in 10 different ways also.
Absolutely.
So, a product manager which has great judgment is able to move from all of these 4 buckets very properly. And what do you do after the experiment? You do an observation.
Got it.
So you go back to that. It's nothing but the scientific method.
Very interesting.
So, and that was, you cannot just be a product manager who's like, here are my 10 insights or here are my 10 hypotheses that I want to experiment. Oh, okay, great. Where are these coming from? Let's go back. Did you...
First principles.
First principles and rooted in like a little bit deeper understanding, because they are also looking at, why am I saying what I'm saying? Why does this hypothesis feel so real to me and not to you? Why do I want to experiment this like so badly?
Can we take one example of like observation to experiment that has worked?
Let's take, say, we observed, and I think some business team was running, and this is back in 2018, some experiments around free delivery के कूपन चला के देखते हैं.
Okay.
अभी तक हमारे पास पेड डिस्काउंट होता था, लेकिन 50% off, up to X rupees, MOV this one, 20% off and so on. And we used to burn like 75 rupees, 80 rupees, 100 rupees, like something like that. Let's do free delivery, let's see if that works. And it started working. Like
disproportionate value, yeah.
And then we said, okay, that's our observation. This is really working. Now the insight behind that, for example, is there's 3 or 4 insights. One is Indians freaking hate paying
for delivery.
Free delivery fee. मतलब ये भी हो सकता है उसमें कि यार corporate greed है. I will not pay to this company. Like there were so many other things that we were actually able to then speak with the users and understand and so on. Say लेकर कि this intangible value of a free delivery is actually much higher than the tangible value of the rupees that you are spending in that one. That was the insight, and that was counterintuitive. It was like very stupid, but it is still true.
We had a very similar insight. I'll talk about it. Please continue.
And from here, now what is a hypothesis? Now, for example, how can we exploit this insight to actually make like products? Like, now there are like 10 different things.
Hypothesis. That's
now, hypothesis is like, let's create first 5 delivery में 50% में आपको free delivery मिलेगी if you're a new user. That is one. Like, there's so many different ways to exploit that. Like, it could be, for example, if you are a repeat user, then we will do X.
So how do we ensure that the right hypothesis is being picked, like the true 10x impact hypothesis is being picked?
That's judgment, and that's the job of a product leader, and that's the job of the business leader. So okay, fine, these are like all छोटी-छोटी चीजें, like maybe was that insight that strong is one question. Now is the hypothesis that strong is another question, and that's judgment. It's not going to come like it's not. Otherwise, robots will be running.
So no product manager makes a case that in these hypotheses, I'm going to prioritize.
It doesn't need to be that official. Like otherwise, you'll burden it with paperwork.
Okay.
There's a framework, and it's a mental model for them to think. कि यार ये है क्या? And if you're feeling really strongly, then some product manager comes and says, no, I want to build a membership program around this. Like let's build something around कि Swiggy's value proposition has to be, if you are on this one, then you get free delivery forever and ever and ever. Things like that. Like that was the hypothesis that I got. And say, let's do this with Swiggy Super in 2018 and or 17, whatever. And we say, and like actually funny date, but like we work together. Like, let's build this out and actually experiment. So instead of building like full-fledged thing, we just launched something in like 45 days and started working and started giving us a lot of growth. And of course, there was a lot of missteps along the way. But something that can start from a simple insight and can really blow up. And today, if you look at, I think some 75-80% of both Swiggy and Zomato orders come from the membership programs.
Wow. So what I'm learning is like this 4-step: observation, insight, hypothesis, and experiment. These framework, this at least 4-step approach is ensuring that people are going to have conversations with you, product leader or business leader,
and
at
themselves.
These steps.
And themselves. I think one of the cultures that really worked at Swiggy, and why we talked about joint problem solving.
Yeah.
The bigger one was actually peer learning. They were learning from each other a lot more than whatever I could have taught them, or even what data could have taught them, because they are now short-circuiting their learnings together to actually cross-apply in joint problem solving also.
Awesome. This is super helpful. I think this gives a good view. Now moving to the last part of our conversation is what are the challenges? I think product cultures, I've seen they have a bell curve in general. People who join a company early on, by the time they've like spent 4 or 5 years, they'll feel that it's not the same culture that we joined in.
Can't be, right? Like by definition, it should not be.
Yeah. But the usual perception is the culture has degraded. My question to you is, does the culture degrade or does it evolve? And how do you figure out those underlying indications that the culture is actually regressing in some shape or form? So 2 parts to this question.
So one of the things, again, like I said, you start with just like culture is strategy for breakfast and org design and so on.
Yeah.
So if you're in a growing company, usually then what will start happening is that in the org design, more and more people will start coming in. And many of them will either be the ones who will bring their own set of cultural values and so on. Or some people will just like blend in. Like, this is what the company expects of me, so let me just blend in. And
yeah.
In both the cases, but there are more people. So the nodes are more.
Yeah.
So the people who are originally building the culture and holding everybody accountable towards that culture is being followed gets diluted. So there is an inherent tendency of orgs to get degraded in the culture.
Okay.
So inherent tendency. And that's why companies that have been able to like maintain that culture have strongly guarded against it. That even at scale, how do we maintain that culture?
How have company guarded that?
I think, so a few things, like some of them are the frameworks that we talked about.
Yes.
Like you can actually like do that at scale and still find out that are we picking up the right things? Are we actually making sure that the best people or the best product people in this case are working on the best problems, are being able to collaborate in the best way possible while removing the roadblocks? Are they moving up their career? Are they learning more? And are they doing bigger things? So are you able to identify those and move them up and so on? So you have to be very careful about that part. Very, I would say, active and agentic about that part. If you don't do that.
Have company put frameworks to measure this?
Yeah, I think you need to. Like, I think HR, for example, is something which is, most companies don't even use HR properly to be their partners.
Any idea that you have experienced, like how has HR been able to measure how the culture is?
Not the measurement part of it. I think this is a very stupid thing to measure, but like of course, like you can still get like feedbacks and so on.
Absolutely.
But using them very effectively to uphold the culture.
Okay.
So for example, is there a culture of learning? Are there people who are
so almost like a pulse check with the employees?
Pulse check is only like a measurement framework. But I'm saying like having HR, for example, working with you to enforce the competency framework. That's something that they need to work with you.
Enforcement.
And not only enforce is like a bad word, but essentially like partner with you to make sure that, hey, in some pockets, instead of competencies, you're just talking about ki ye goal nahi meet hua, I don't like you, and like you're chucked off.
Yeah.
so that those are things that
they bring objectivity to all this.
Yes. Look, so what I was saying was, in a sense, like as orgs grow larger, it becomes harder and harder.
Absolutely.
So it's and factorial, like whatever number of combinations that happen, and it grows like really exponentially and higher than that. Like that's one. Because if you're not a growing culture or not a growing company, then it's you even harder. Because whatever culture that you had is not working to growing the company.
Yeah.
So in both the cases, you are like forced with some negative pressures that will bring the culture down.
Yeah.
So it's very hard and it's very active effort from leaders that will be required to get the culture in a shape. And that's why.
What are the actions that you have taken to? First of all, actually, what are the signals that you caught on that culture is not the same, and we want to take steps to bring it back? And
no, I think it's kind of very some of the things that you have to still kind of be okay with, like early people basically saying that this culture is not the same and I'm not doing my best work and I want to move on and so on.
Understood.
So you need to understand like how much of that is actually okay, because culture out to change because company is bigger.
Absolutely.
Goals are different.
That's very practical, by the way.
It needs to happen and so on. So you need to like kind of understand, ignore some of those things. But at the same time, if they're fundamental degradation in culture that will kind of hurt the company in the long term, you have to catch those. And again, that's a leadership skill more than like how, like if I do ABCD things, you will be able to catch. But mostly it will be around people. Second is around velocity. Like overall, the outcome of this one, are you able to ship faster or have you grown slower?
Okay.
Third is around speed of decision making.
Yeah.
That is very important. So are you, for example, in a place where everybody is relying a lot more on senior leaders' decisions, or relying on let's do A/B test and find out because I'm not able to take a decision myself. I'm de-risking things. I'm not taking risks enough.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to innovate anymore. Things like that. So those are usually telltale signs of that. I'm not innovating on behalf of the company. I'm not taking risks on behalf of the company. And that's a telltale sign of like your culture is degrading, by the way.
Makes sense.
Because you're not feeling that deeply enough about the culture and like what the company's mission is.
The velocity part is fairly real, I think.
Velocity and also excellence.
Excellence.
I think you start seeing many more shitty experiments being run.
Yeah.
Or just for velocity's sake. So those two anchors will always stay, even at the company level.
So what have you done at scale that has at least tried to go back to the culture of that same velocity or excellence? What can leaders do? The takeaway here should be, what can leaders do to bring that back if they see these signals?
I think it's not like one leader or the other. The entire organization must recognize that hey, this is something, this is a very valuable thing for us to preserve. And we will partner with HR, we will work with product leaders, we'll make sure that every individual is kind of taken. I don't want to give that kind of an answer, but what I will though say here is that you go back to the fundamentals. And you go back and you say, are we still a company that is known for a talent brand that hey, people are very proud to work here.
Right.
So you usually like look at it like inputs and outputs, right? People are very proud to work here.
Yes.
They are working on like the best work of my life, like things like that and so on. Are they actually referring other people to come and join me in these things? So one is like the bottom up sign on this part. And B is, are you still shipping with speed and velocity, speed and excellence? So if both these things are right, then I think other things that you are doing in the middle are okay. If both these things are, one of these things is going bad, then you know that it's maybe you're still shipping with excellence and velocity, but if people are not referring and so on, you know that after a couple of years, it's going to
attrition is going to happen again. Yeah, this is super helpful. I think one last question, Anuj, and then we'll wrap on this one. If you're starting your own company, so there's no if here actually, what would be that one value and one ritual that you would instate in your company from day one?
So a couple of things, right? One is around like excellence itself. Like show don't tell has to be one.
Show don't tell. Okay.
Because especially when you're in a -1 to 0 journey, or even in a 0 to 1 journey, it's very easy for us to like cook up a lot of dreams and so on. But if you are going to build anything for the consumer, they will inherently use it, right? And anybody who's building, including myself, like I think we ought to reach that place where I'm able to demonstrate and say this and feel it in the bones that this will work. So show don't tell has to be one. The other one that I feel, and it's interesting, like I used to run this in Swiggy also, is basically working with, so we used to have a small group meeting of like product managers. There were some 15 of them at
PM
that time.
Sync, okay.
And the simple thing that they have to say, what will they accomplish this week? The three things that you will accomplish this week.
Okay.
And they're not allowed to say what I'm working on this week, I will progress on this week, and so on. But they will accomplish. In fact, the answer, what will you close this week?
Outputs, basically.
Yes. And it could be like, hey, I closed this great deal is my product actually launched? Or after launch, you have to write, I will speak with these 20 customers and get you the results. It cannot be, I will work and maybe it'll take me 2 weeks to come up with a PRD. No, it can't be that.
Okay.
So that's a very easy way to ensure velocity, just accomplishment and closures.
Now I think show don't tell has become so easy.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
It's essentially like a deeper philosophy of working backwards. So I want to work backwards from like a bright future. First, show me the bright future. The same thing as PRFQ, same thing as show don't tell.
Absolutely. Great. I think we are almost near the end. I'll quickly summarize our takeaways and then we'll wrap. So we started with like what does a great product culture look like? And then you said before even you move to culture, maybe org design has to be thought through, and org design is a function of the stage of the company. It also sets the system of working. You also have to take care of competition and your own values while designing the org. That was there. We talked about Swiggy at its PMF stage, post-PMF stage. The two things that it valued really well was execution speed and excellence. Customer obsession came out really well as something that you felt is one of the big values. You also talked about a couple of frameworks that you applied at Swiggy. One was the 4-win framework for customers, restaurants, delivery partners, and Swiggy. And the 4BB framework, of course, where brilliant basics, bread and butter, big bets were part of the core. And then there was Breaking Bad, which was like a completely different function altogether. You also mentioned that your early indications of a strong product culture came at Flipkart, which meant that strong customer obsession that led to products like COD, openness to new ideas and collaboration, and data-drivenness. These were the 3 values that really differentiated a strong culture. We spoke about the belief in product managers. They have to create an accepted customer belief and a desired customer belief. This was an ingredient, an input to the customer obsession value that we had. We talked about the short-term versus long-term planning, and we had to institute all the cultural values. Competency framework, if applied well, can be a great tool. We understood that. We talked about inputs, outputs, and outcomes, so that people are not only inclined on metrics, but we are also able to understand, are they following the values there? Peer feedback was one way to measure the inputs as well, as we mentioned.
Yes.
Some strong values of very good product culture, and we talked about Swiggy, were customer obsession, joint problem solving, excellence, speed, bias for action, show don't tell. And you have actually mentioned velocity and show don't tell as your own strong values that you would want to put. We talked about the 4 steps PMs follow when they are being guided by you. Number 1 is observation, second is insight, then forming a hypothesis and experiment. And at each stage, a conversation with you or with their peers leads to those values being reinforced. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a great way to institute an operating system where all the values are not just being enforced by the leaders, but also being institutionalized by peer conversations.
That's right.
Right. So I think it's also an accepted fact that cultures do dilute over time, and it's okay. As a leader, you have to make that judgment when to intervene, when not to intervene. To intervene, you can always leverage your HR business partners and other systems.
Even like a couple of things that we didn't talk about here. When to intervene, you should always be on a lookout of this one and keep a very sharp hawk's eye on this. In some cases, you may need to start with not the culture, but the org design.
Yeah.
You really have to look at that. Like, who are the actors, and is it because the actors have
misaligned incentives?
Misaligned, like, are they the good actors? Every once in a while, they can be bad actors in the system, especially leaders. If they are wrong, then so it's very important to guard against that, and it's also very important to guard against if they want to like go in different directions.
Absolutely.
So we go back to, for example, the strategy that the company have to choose.
Yes.
And if that's like a known and understood strategy by everyone, or like it's fine, like people are going in different directions. It's a different animal.
Yeah. Org design, I think it's also always a starting point, and the input to that is also strategy or what you want to achieve in the next 1 to 2 years.
Yes.
Right. I think velocity and excellence is something that you are also saying that are signals when velocity slows down or excellence decisions are going off. You can almost get the sense that culture is not the same, and that's where you can intervene. I think we have to partner with HRs, and we also have to catch on signals whether people are feeling pride in being part of the organization, and also are they referring other people to work with them to understand this culture, whether people are actually enjoying where they are. So great takeaways for me, by the way, Anuj. Thank you so much for sparing time. And I think it's going to be super useful for our audience.
Thank you.
Really, really helpful. And I do hope that product leaders of tomorrow and today and the founders do take some of these takeaways and practically apply them. I think what I really loved was the practicality part of it. Mm-hmm. It was not just theory. We talked about examples and practically how can we implement them. So thank you so much for all this, and really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks again.
Very nice meeting.
Awesome.
Great.
Nice meeting.